All right, welcome to NFL Outdated Cover 2 series covering the Jacksonville Jaguars on this episode. And we are joined by NFL writer CJ Errickson. You can find him at CJ Errickson_NFL on Twitter. And where else can they find you?
You can find me on fanside.com. CJ Errickson. I write for both the Jacksonville Jaguars, Black and Teal, and the Las Vegas Raiders at Just Blog Baby. And I also have a side project called Prospect Rollout with the Ray Ramble. I cover NFL draft prospects as well. So
Perfect.
I'm on Twitter. So, yeah.
Perfect. And we have that scrolling on the bottom. And obviously, welcome. So glad to have you. Love talking football. There's so much to talk about, obviously with the Jaguars, obviously you're talking about a team that's going to be high up in the draft again. Are they able to, can they draft coaches at all?
Man, I tell you what, the whole Urban Meyer fiasco is something else. I mean, it's just been a roller coaster from day one. So everyone, okay, so maybe we're going to get Jaguars are going to get Louis Riddick as a GM, and then all these other different coaching candidates out there, and it's just all of a sudden, Urban Meyer comes out of nowhere, and I think everyone thought it was kind of a joke because we're like Urban Meyer,
Right.
he's never been at the NFL level and things like that, and then all of a sudden it starts gaining traction overnight. He's the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach.
That was so crazy.
What? So crazy, and it's just out of left field, and it's just I feel that it was just such a pivotal off season for Jacksonville because they had the number one draft pick, they had all the most cap space in the NFL, could sign just about any free agent, and I was like, you're going to trust Urban Meyer with it? That's the part that really just blew me away, honestly.
And he's really made a lot of little mistakes too. Didn't they have issues with the amount of practice time as well?
Yeah, so Urban Meyer was just like, well, I don't really want push these guys too hard because he's a collegiate guy and stuff like that. And then he was doing weird stuff with Gardner Minshew and the reps, so that was probably the weirdest thing because Trevor Lawrence is the number one overall pick. He's the guy in Jacksonville.
Oh,
everyone knows
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
Amazing talent, and I respect, and Gardner Minshew did some great things with Jacksonville, but he's not the long-term solution. Everyone knew that, and I get trying to pay respect to the incumbent starter and stuff like that, but it's just you're in a new era, new regime, new front office, new players, new coaching staff. Start with your guy day one, and it's just they split the reps in preseason. Gardner Minshew took most of the reps, and the offensive line, there was just a discontinuity, and I think it really hurt Trevor. And you kind of see it today. The Jaguars have kind of had a slow start, and yes, they're 0-5, but the first couple games it was clearly significantly worse than what it was today, for example. So.
Yeah, I mean, even the Thursday game, Lawrence looked good. He looked like he had a command. He was decisive, and he definitely looked like a number one pick at times. But yeah, you just kind of obviously with
absolutely, the talent's there.
And you just kind of look at the coaching. Obviously, Urban Meyer with now the. what he's dealt with now, but even bringing in Tim Tebow, and obviously solid citizen and all that, and did Urban Meyer lose kind of a lot of the players with that, and even now obviously with this situation you see them trolling him at practice, and that can't be good long term.
No, absolutely not. And that's the thing that I think everyone was concerned about. How would Urban Meyer handle NFL locker room? Because it's not college. At Ohio State, that's a college talent. It's a mentality. It's a lifestyle there. Same thing in Florida when he was at Florida. That's a lifestyle. NFL guys, they love their money. They go home to their families that might live across the world, across America, and it's not the same. You can't have that same mindset. So I think him bringing Tim Tebow was to help Lawrence's, kind of like a mentor type for the team, but just the way that Tim Tebow is brought in a new position as a tight end. Come on, like it's just not.
Mhm.
He's a veteran, but he was just playing baseball. Like it's
Right.
not the same. It's not like 2012, when he's a fresh guy coming out of college. So I think, and then he's giving that guy reps over undrafted guys who actually play the position. So like that, and just different things. Like today, for example, like the press conference today after the Titans lost, he was talking about Myles Jack, who is absolutely amazing, probably the Jaguars'
Mhm.
best defensive player,
Mhm.
right? And Myles Jack has been given the green dot responsibilities, getting guys, set the line of scrimmage, pre-snap, and stuff like that. And the thing about it is, Jacksonville has tried that already. And it's actually been something fascinating because he's actually a better player when he does not have those responsibilities. And Urban Meyer is just realizing that now. Like, that's
Interesting.
just
Yeah.
something that, like, an NFL coach, a guy with NFL experience would look into before, actually becoming the coach. But you're
Well, yeah,
right. Like, it's very interesting.
there's so many things. I mean, even with the story of how he didn't ride home on the plane with the team, and like so many analysts said that's the first time they'd ever heard that happening
Yeah,
after.
I've never heard
Yeah.
that. I mean, I
Yeah.
played high school and collegiate. I've never heard that. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I was actually having a conversation with one of my buddies. We were talking about because we both played college football, and we're just like, did we ever have a time where a coach didn't ride a bus back? Because if you flip the script, if you're a player, NFL player, you want to stay because you play in all sorts of cities. You might have family, friends you want to see, and you ask a coach if you can stay behind. They're like, So it's just what kind of message are we sending? It's just
And where
not a good leadership aspect at all.
where did you play at college?
I was at Lock Haven University, this very small school in Pennsylvania. Never won a game. It was a bad just experience overall. Um, it was a D3 school. I walk on, so.
But did you? I mean, like obviously it was a team that didn't win, but you still never had a coach that was like that. Like even after losses.
Oh, absolutely. Never, never. I had some of the worst, teams in high school and college of just not winning games, but always our coaches were always with us whenever we were on buses, planes, you name it. And it's just like, wow, like I can't believe this is happening. So yeah, it was just very shocking, very strange for that to happen. And I think it's a real disservice to most NFL players in that locker room. You know, that's how you lose locker rooms, and it doesn't take much, you
Mhm.
know. So,
And so obviously let's just kind of assume that if Urban Meyer doesn't, if he does last the season, we'll just assume that he's going to be gone at the end of the year because I just don't know how you continue that. Who might be next in line to be a Jaguars coach? Like I kind of like Eric Bieniemy, kind of what he's
yeah,
done. I mean, would that be a good fit or?
I like Eric Bieniemy. He's a good fit, a very innovative offensive mind. You see what he's done with Kansas City. A lot of people think it's Andy Reid. It's both of them. It's a 50-50 thing. Bieniemy's
Absolutely.
been around the league for a very long time, very
Yep.
respected head coach. I think another person to look at is Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator Brian Dable. He is a wonderful look at what he's done with Josh Allen.
Hmm.
He year one, Josh Allen struggled. And a lot of people kind of, I don't want to say forget, but you don't think about that. You see Josh Allen like right now. Josh Allen is, laying up the Chiefs right now.
Right.
So it's
Right.
just like Brian Dable has created something in Buffalo offensively that is incredible. So it's just like him and Trevor Lawrence, that would be a very interesting combination moving forward because I'm not saying that Trevor is he's kind of in a weird spot right now because if you watch the games and stuff like that, the offense, the aerial attack is just not NFL quality. you
It,
know.
it's so and it's so interesting you say that because looking at the wide receivers, you have Marvin Jones Jr. coming in, Laviska Shenault coming in, and obviously
Yeah.
DJ Chark was a solid number one in the past. I mean, is it because of injuries or why hasn't the air attack been as potent?
Well, I think a concern coming in was the offensive line. The offensive line has actually done a pretty decent job, all things considered. They're actually in the bottom of the league in terms of allowing sacks, which is a good thing. That
Hmm.
was a major concern preseason because Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew were both getting hit left and right, but they've
Oh yeah,
actually
yeah.
held up on their own. And now it's just like the first couple games they weren't using James Robinson, they weren't rushing the ball. I believe the first game they had less than 10 rushing attempts between both Carlos Hyde and you can't win like that. Like this isn't college where you're running the spread
Mm-mm,
offense all day every day.
mm-mm,
So, but back to your main point about the receivers, it's just that it's just so weird because Urban Meyer wants to use play action, right? But
mm-hmm.
if you aren't running it, like today, James Robinson had a great day, 150 yards rushing, things like that. But you get in a hole, and these defenses just start teeing off, and Trevor Lawrence has little time. He's under pressure, but he's not getting sacked. So wide receivers aren't, creating separation downfield. And I think the biggest part of Trevor Lawrence's game that isn't being used or expanded on is Trevor Lawrence has an incredible ability when he's outside of pocket to extend plays and scrambling.
Mm-hmm.
These wide receivers are just standing downfield. It's just like, you guys know what a scramble drill is? You gotta move, you know? It's just like I feel like that is a big part of Trevor Lawrence's game, and it's just not something that the Jacksonville wide receivers are either being coached on, or I'm not sure what the dysfunction is because the talent's there. Like Laviska Shenault is a extremely talented wide receiver. You
Oh,
give him touches, and Marvin Jones has shown the ability to, he's a big bodied wide receiver. He can go up and get the football, you know.
it and who's calling plays there? Is it Urban or who's calling offensive plays?
Urban's calling the plays, and it's just like one of those things. Like it's like a similar situation. Like you have Andy Reid in Kansas City, right? He's calling the plays, and Bieniemy is kind of the guy that's just kind of facilitating the offense. You know what I mean? And it's just like, man, like this whole offensive scheme is just so. I don't want to say outdated, but it's just very collegiate like, and it's just not. It's not going to work. So that's something that Jacksonville needs to really focus on if Urban even makes it. I have my doubts if Urban makes the whole season. I really do.
Well, I saw him in preseason and just how angry he was kind of getting on the sideline at a preseason game, and I just thought, yeah, I just didn't have that feel
Yeah,
like he was going to last. And you kind of brought up obviously it's a very collegiate like. He brought in James Robinson was came out of nowhere last year and was amazing,
yeah,
and then he went away from him. Obviously, it seemed like the focus was on Travis Etienne, and
yeah.
um, you know, was that kind of, Urban trying to kind of make it more of a collegiate type offense or?
Well, yeah, like it's just a very strange pick because Jacksonville, they had a couple first round picks. You had Lawrence, and then you have
Mhm.
that pick at the end of the first round. And it's just like, so you have questions on offensive line because Cam Robinson, their left tackle, has a franchise tag. Who knows what the future is going to be there? And it's just like
Right.
you want to protect Trevor Lawrence because you don't want what happened to Joe Burrow last season, happen to Trevor Lawrence, especially in that division where you have the Colts and you have the Titans, who aren't like a great defense, but they can still get after it with Harold Landry, uh, Jeffrey Simmons. They got some guys up front that can get after you.
Mhm.
Texans, well, that's a whole nother story.
Right, right.
But yeah, it was just a very strange pick considering the needs of the team. And like you said, what James Robinson did as an undrafted free agent last season was absolutely incredible. Whether it was running, receiving, he just did so much for Jacksonville offense, you know. And Travis Etienne, don't get me wrong, electric player. I live in Clemson pretty much, and that's all they talk about outside of Trevor Lawrence. Travis
Right.
Etienne, was a major part of off. And you look at Clemson now, and it's like, okay, they're missing Trevor Lawrence, but they also don't have a run game. They don't have that home run hitter. That's what
Mm-hmm.
Etienne is. And that is what the Jaguars offense is lacking. But given the needs everywhere else on the team, like I just feel Urban wanted Etienne to be the focal point, but a running back in the first round in today's NFL, unless it's a guy like Derrick Henry, you know,
Mm-hmm.
who's an absolute beast and went off today as well. It's not worth it, you know? So I think Etienne's a great player, and I think that he was a big part off. I think that's partially why you see the Jaguars offense kind of struggling because now you see Tavon Austin, NFL vet, who's a shifty guy, kind of lines up, running back, wide receiver. Now he's getting focused in the offense a little bit, and it's like they're trying to replace what Etienne was going to do, and I feel like
Right.
it set them back. So it's very strange, very weird, and again, that comes down to Urban and just wanting to run the collegiate, and it's just not feasible.
Right. In obviously there's a lot of needs on the team. I mean, did the Jaguars really have I mean, is Luke Farrell the answer? Is he even he's not even really the number one guy at tight end, is he?
No, Dan Arnold. They just traded for Dan Arnold from the Carolina Panthers, and Dan
That's what it
Arnold is
was. Dan Arnold.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
He is
So he's gonna
massive, 6'6". He's got a basketball background. He's a great receiving tight end. You got Jacob Hollister, who had a nice touchdown today. Kind of have a
Yep.
bunch of guys in there that are solid and have potential, but they aren't ready yet to be, that
Right.
guy. So Luke Farrell, I mean, he had a nice catch today, but like you said, like he's just not, a focal point just yet. So it's a very strange tight end room, and I think that was a position that they were going to target, or everyone thought they were going to target in the draft over ETN because look at Pat Fryermuth from
Right.
Penn State, and now he's in Pittsburgh. And while he's not doing a whole lot there, he's still a better option than all of the Jaguars options, aside from maybe Dan Arnold. So
Well, was that an interesting trade? I mean, it just seemed obviously, who was he traded for again? The defensive player. Um,
it was. Give me a second. It was
yeah.
I'm trying to think of the name.
Obviously, it's so
Oh,
weird with
CJ Henderson. CJ Henderson.
yeah. He just didn't want to be there. Is that kind of what it was?
Well, I think that's what a lot of people believe, but I disagree with that. CJ Henderson has kind of been in a doghouse since he
Oh,
joined the Jaguars. Like he was hurt last year, and then there was kind of some questions about his physicality and things like that in terms of run support, tackling. So that was kind of a thing. But the injury was a major part, and he was injured, coming into this year. So, and now like I never got from him that he didn't want. He's a different dude. Like if you ever talk to him, listen to him talk, he's just a different kind of introverted type person. So it comes off as like he doesn't care, but you look at the University of Florida, that man loves football. He's a great, great talent. He's just a different guy, and that's how some of these NFL, like especially defensive backs, they can be a little different. You know. So,
yeah.
but
Yeah, usually you see the ones that are kind of more outspoken and whatnot, and so that's an interesting a point there. Obviously, a little more laid back, and it'll be interesting to see how he kind of fits in with the Panthers.
yeah, I think he'll be a great fit in Carolina. They have a great defense. But like you said, that trade, the worst part about it, this is what grinds my gears about the Jaguars and Urban Meyer, is that Dan Arnold was a free agent this past offseason. They had the cap space to go
Oh,
get him. So it's just like, and I remember this past summer of, Urban Meyer talking about how he wants to get a tight end and stuff like that. I'm like, well, just pay Dan Arnold. And instead, he goes to Carolina on that little deal, and then things didn't work out. And Carolina has different needs, and obviously they're a contending team, and they want to make the playoffs. So they're like, okay, we can kind of live. They have a good tight end, Tommy Tremble from Notre Dame. They're just like,
hmm
okay, we'll give you Dan Arnold, and it's just kind of weird because you give up a late pick, and like people don't think those picks matter, but they do. They do. Because those are solid depth, quality guys, rotational guys, and there's some great players that come in the mid-late rounds. So it's just I don't like it because of the principle of it. That's kind of how I operate, the principle of things.
well,
It's like if a guy's a
yeah.
free agent, go get him. You know.
Well, in some of those picks, that's where a lot of linemen are too. I mean, you can get some solid depth.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where, a competent NFL front office, would not allow that to happen because corner was a need, you know, and they did draft one, Tyson Campbell, and he's been hot and cold. Sometimes he looks great, but in today's league, you can't have too many corners. Like Shaq Griffin was a great pickup, you know. So it's just like there are pieces there on the defense. It's just a matter of building around them.
So yeah, it's so interesting. Obviously, when the Jaguars were it was the AFC Championship, right? Oh, did I lose you? Oh, you got they when they had Jalen Ramsey, when
Oh,
they had
yeah, we're good now.
oh, you got okay, yeah. When we had that they had that defense, you had some studs in that defense, and they really kind of carried them.
Oh,
Then
absolutely.
obviously you know you got Myles Jack and who are some of the other players now? I mean, and do they have enough right now to kind of build upon for their defense? Or what are some of the other key players that you see there?
Josh Allen, defensive end, he's going into his third year with the Jaguars, top pick. He's a great. I think he can be I don't want to say elite defensive end, but a top 15 guy in the NFL. Today, he was giving Ryan Tannehill just the business all day long. You know, Caleb on Chaisson on the other side. He came on a little bit at the end of last season, and it's just like he's starting to get it together. Defensive tackle, you kind of got some. You got some rotational guys. That's the position they can improve. Devon Hamilton, more of a run stopping type guy, but Myles Jack, linebacker, outstanding. Has potential to be all pro. You can build around him. You can build around Josh Allen. And then in the secondary, you have Shaq Griffin. I was a little leery. I was like, I don't know if that's a good fit because he's coming from Seattle. They play a lot of
Mhm.
zone. Jacksonville plays a lot of man. So I was like, I don't know how that's going to translate if there's not going to be consistent pass rush. But he's actually done really well so far, and he's proven to be a leader of this team. So that's been a thing. The biggest concerns is definitely safety. Andrew Wingard, I'm sorry. He is love the guy, gives it his all every snap, every rep. But in terms of athleticism, range, things of that nature, you gotta do better. you know. So,
Right, right.
but they
And
have some pieces there. They definitely do. It's just a matter of filling in the gaps.
and obviously they're going to have another high pick this year. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, are they going to win a game this year, or is that
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the only hope is Texans. So
right? And then they played the Patriots tough today for some reason. That's so weird.
yes, it's so crazy. This NFL season has all sorts of twists and turns, you know. But they'll be getting a high pick, but at least they have their quarterback of the future, and that's the main thing that they can build around. In terms of guys that I could see them drafting next season, I would say Kyle Hamilton, safety from Notre Dame, absolute stud. That guy can fly. He reminds me of Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu. You put them both together, that guy, he's amazing.
Oh wow.
High expectations. I don't usually say that about guys, but he can do just about everything. He's a freak. Um, Another guy is Oregon's Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, you have Chaisson and Josh Allen, but again, you can never have too many pass rushers, you know. And
And
someone
is
else
it?
who has kind of go ahead, go ahead.
I was say, and the guy from Oregon would probably. I mean, might even go number one.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, you could do offensive line depending what happens with Cam Robinson. If they don't want to re-sign him, Alabama's Evan Neal, outstanding left tackle. He's a mammoth. I know guys are like, well, Cam Robinson was from Alabama too. I'm like, they're not even remotely the same player. Evan Neal is much more athletic, much more complete. He has a lot more tools. Robinson's powerful, but Robinson's going to be looking for that money. So
Right.
um,
And it, you know, obviously, are the Jaguars really even at that point in their kind of development where they want to pay someone that much? I mean, is it going to take a few years for them to really develop?
I mean, in my opinion, it should take a few years. Don't be chilling out big contracts. You got a young team, things of that nature. But this front office, I don't know. It's just they seem very emotional in how they handle business. Like the whole trade for Dan Arnold, like that was a very emotional base because the thing didn't work out with Tim Tebow, and it's like you trade for a tight end when you have obvious problems in the secondary. It's like, come on, DJ Chark goes down. It's like, why not get another wide receiver? You know, so it's just they do things a lot different than a lot of other NFL organizations, and I think part of the problem is, like Trent Ball came from the San Francisco 49ers, right? He built
Mm-hmm.
up, the Kaepernick teams and things of that nature, and he has his way
Mm-hmm.
of doing things. Um, but now you have Urban, who has a lot of power in the organization. You know, he has just about the same amount of power as John Gruden does in the Raiders organization, and that's
Wow.
kind of scary for a guy that has no proven NFL experience. So it's a very interesting dynamic. He wants wins, so he's willing to do whatever, and he believes in Urban. So we'll see.
You know, you know, it's tough. Like, is there really, you know, a huge fan base for the Jaguars, or what? I mean, that's just kind of an interesting area, isn't it? I mean, do you see a lot of diehard Jaguar fans, or I mean, from covering the team, or
Oh yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. If you say the wrong thing on these uh, hard streets, they'll come after you. There might not
is
be as
that?
but they're out there.
Well, that's what. Yeah, I mean, so you kind of think about, you know, having patience, and you get a rookie quarterback. You know, I'm a Bears fan, and for me, I
Okay.
just want to see Justin Fields, have growth, and honestly, I think probably a better, different coach would help him, but I'm not expecting
100%.
them to get anywhere near the Super Bowl this year. So I'm kind of looking at those things. I want to see him, kind of progress, and just kind of grow. And obviously now he's going to play.
Yeah.
Is that Jaguars fan base, obviously going to, uh, be patient for Trevor Lawrence to continue to grow?
Absolutely. Jack fans are amazing. They are very knowledgeable team, and they just, they are very understanding of the situation as a whole. So I don't think it's like other teams like Philadelphia, for example. Philadelphia sports fans, Boston sports fans, New York sports fans, live
Oh
right
yeah.
now.
Yep.
It's not the same. And I think people understand that Trevor Lawrence is going to be a great NFL quarterback. You know, it's going to take time because the pieces in Jacksonville just aren't there quite yet. So I love the Jaguars fan base. They're very knowledgeable. There's some diehards out there. Obviously, Florida is an interesting state because you have
Mhm.
Tampa Bay, just a 4 or 5 hours south, and they just won a Super Bowl. You have the Dolphins, who are in a very strange, unique situation
Yes.
right now. Um, that's a whole nother story, But like those are the teams, that people flock to down there. Jacksonville is very, Florida could be 5 states. So it's a very
Yeah.
close knit community, but they love their team and they're very knowledgeable, and they're a great fan base. I really enjoy covering them, despite the hardships of the team in recent years. It's a really fun, great fan base. So
And from covering the team, what are you seeing specifically, that gives you hope for Trevor Lawrence, like being that guy, that's going to kind of, I don't. It's hard to kind of project the Super Bowl. I mean, everyone wants to say who's the next Patrick Mahomes, but you know,
yeah,
what are you seeing from Trevor Lawrence to kind of, would say he is kind of going to be that guy?
every week I see improvement from him. That's the key. He's consistent. I see him making throws that I'm just like, wow, that's incredible. Today he had an amazing. He had a. He was under pressure, under duress, stood tall in the pocket, withstood the pressure, and threw a nice touchdown to Jacob Hollister. And so beautiful touch. It was amazing. Like it's just one of those things where there's not many quarterbacks that can do that. So you're seeing more flashes of that kind of play each week. And like despite losing, because that was a question coming in, because Trevor
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence, Clemson, winner, always winning, and things like that. And how would he handle, adversity and things like that? And all things considered, Trevor Lawrence has done an amazing job keeping his head up, encouraging his teammates as well. You can see it on the sidelines and things like that. And you can just see that there's a vibe around him that just
Mm-hmm.
people love playing with him. And he has that calm manner of confidence, not arrogance. Kind of similar to Justin Herbert in a sense. He
Yeah.
got mentally of Justin Herbert, and now look at what Justin Herbert's doing. Like
Right.
that man's incredible, So
Oh
moving
yeah.
forward, Trevor Lawrence, he is absolutely the guy, and
And you,
hopefully that the coaching staff can put guys around him.
yeah, I mean, you see, him kind of going through this, and he's like, even in kind of the interviews, post game interviews, he's kind of saying all the right things. Also, oh, did we lose you? Oh, I
Lawrence.
think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. Oh, we maybe lost you here. Yeah. Obviously, with Trevor Lawrence, he's got so much talent, and it does seem like he can definitely be that guy. Um, obviously kind of, what you talked about with the all the stuff, on the field and encouraging. I think that's huge as well. So
Yeah.
looks like, okay. Oh, we did get you. Okay. Yeah. And so as far as, Jaguars, I think, you know, they've got, there's a lot there, receiver wise. It just seems to be a lot of talent. Do you see this team winning, like even like getting to the playoffs and winning the game in the playoffs in the next 4 or 5 years?
Ooh, that's a tough question because there's so much uncertainty because Urban Meyer, I mean, you see what he did at Florida. He just pieced out, had the health condition, you know. And it's
Yeah.
just like if he's not there, it's just like now you're just putting in a whole new coaching staff and system in place. But I do see this team improving because you look at the division, right? So the Titans, fantastic team. Mike Vrabel's a fantastic head coach. However, Derrick Henry isn't going to be around forever. That's what that team goes around. At some
Yeah.
point within the next few years, I expect him to, that wear and tear to catch up. And while they have Tannehill, he's not exactly. I don't want to say he's a subpar. He's an average guy. He's not going to, go out and win you games on his own arm. You know, the Texans are obviously a mess, and
Hmm.
probably will be for quite a few years, unfortunately. And Colts, I mean, look at the Colts. Like it's just they're a very interesting team right now. Carson Wentz, he is not. I don't think he's holding up to those expectations, what they want, and they've kind of been stopgapping it since Andrew Luck's retirement and with Jacoby Brissett, Philip
Hmm.
Rivers last year, and it's just like they have a great defense. They have a
Yeah.
great running back, Jonathan Taylor, but it's just like at some point that team is just going to come apart. And if you look at the youth of the Jaguars, and the roster, have the youth and talent compared to the rest of the division. So I think playoffs are possible, especially with the expansion now, in the
Right.
next 5 years. You know, but Super Bowl, that's pushing it, unfortunately, because you got guys like Patrick Mahomes, Justin
Right.
Herbert, Josh Allen. There are some incredible teams in the AFC alone.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think and you see it every week. They're competitive and they're not an easy out. The scoreboard like today, like Jaguars were right with the Titans for majority of the day. They just had some bad second half issues and things like that. And Derrick Henry eventually just wore down the defense. That's what he does. He took over. So, but yeah, this team, you give it a couple of years, and I guarantee you that they're going to be a team that will be contending for a wild card spot and potentially a division. See what happens with Tennessee mainly. So.
It is so interesting when you kind of look at kind of the division. That's a good way to put it. Is there a path to the playoffs? And
Yeah.
obviously, there's a lot of positive things there, and yeah. So I definitely appreciate you joining me. I definitely have learned a lot, and I look forward to connecting on Twitter as well. And so you can be found obviously at CJ Errickson _NFL on Twitter, and your other endeavors also. Scrolling down here, any kind of final words on the Jaguars?
I think the Jaguars are a team that, a lot of people kind of want to say, oh, they don't have like a big fan base. They don't really, they're not really a contending team and stuff like that. I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of hard workers in the Jacksonville Jaguars organization that want to win. And that's the key to success. Guys that are willing to come to work every day and win. Sure, they might not know the names, you might not see the numbers, but if you watch the games of the Jaguars, I guarantee you'll be surprised just how much this team is improving from, say, week 1, week 2. And I just want people to know that Jacksonville, they might not be the team that's going to be winning the Super Bowl in the next 5 years and stuff like that, but they're not a team that's going to be an easy out. So they're getting better, especially on the defensive side of the football. So keep an eye out on them. I appreciate you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks again. And I definitely going to would love to have you back again. And thanks again for everything.
Absolutely. Take care.
You too. Thanks. Catch him on at CJ Errickson _NFL. And this has been NFL Outdated Cover 2 series on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Until next time.